people of faith are interested in feeding. They're interested in food. They're interested in diet, nutrition, spiritually, yes, and physically also. On this edition of Austin Faith Dialogue, we're going to talk about food and your diet. Please stay with us on Austin Faith Dialogue.
Austin Faith Dialogue, at the crossroads of religion and life. A series highlighting the cultural and social interactions between the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KXAN. Join us now in Austin Faith Dialogue.
Welcome to Austin Faith Dialogue. I'm Carl Gronberg, host for the program. I would imagine that you and your faith community are concerned about how people eat, here in Austin, but also throughout the world. And wherever there are people in need, people of faith respond. We're going to talk today with three people who are interested in food security and sustainable food. Welcome, will you please, with me, Kathy from Sustainable Food Center, hello. Felipe, Sustainable Food Center, and Gloria. And Gloria, you are very special because you've learned a lot at the Sustainable Food Center.
Yes, I have.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
Glad to have you all here at Austin Faith Dialogue. Tell us a little bit about the Sustainable Food Center, and Felipe, we'll start with you.
Sure. The Sustainable Food Center is a nonprofit organization that started a little over 7 years ago, has dedicated its work to helping secure our communities, making sure that everybody has safe, affordable, easy access to fresh, seasonal, nutritious foods. And we do that by implementing several different programs that we'll talk about a little later during our program.
There are people in our community who do not have food security. Is that correct, Felipe?
Yes, sir. There's people in a lot of communities that are insecure with their food right now. And
concerned whether they can feed their families.
Concerned whether they can feed their families as well as meet their basic nutritional needs for themselves, to help them become safe, for them to work successfully in our communities and carry successful roles within our communities, as well as how their children will do in school and how much that they can actually take on, because we're so dependent on how much food we take in.
That's a concern of mine. I grew up in a family who really enjoyed eating. And when I married, one of the things that I wanted to do was be able to provide food for my children. Kathy, tell us a little bit about what you do. I like the title of what you do, the Happy Kitchen.
The Happy Kitchen. I co-coordinate, myself and another woman, the program called the Happy Kitchen, or La Cocina Alegre. It was started a few years after we founded the center. We had set up farm stands in low-income neighborhoods, and we noticed that many people were buying fruit, but they weren't really buying the vegetables and produce. And when we started asking them, a lot of the young mothers were saying they didn't really know how to prepare fresh foods anymore. So we started this program, and the goal of it is to offer a 6 weeks course. We follow the U.S. food pyramid, mainly because it's the most widely agreed upon.
Tell people, I think everybody knows about the food pyramid, but tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the food pyramid basically is an illustrated guide to making healthful daily food choices. And it helps people move towards a diet that has more whole grains, fruits and vegetables, and has less but adequate protein foods like meats, eggs, fish, and dairy foods, and then limited amounts of what we're used to calling junk foods. I mean, they taste good, we love them,
yeah, right.
But they don't contribute a lot to our nutrition. So we use that guide because it is visual, and in our class we take one group each week. So we start out with the grain group, we cook a dish together, we usually have 15 to 20 people. They get involved in the cooking.
That's great.
We talk about all the ingredients and why you would choose this kind of bread over that or this kind of rice, what cereals are best. We teach people how to read the food label, kind of step by step. When we're talking about cereals and grains, we'll just focus on fiber and sugar. And when we move up into meats, we'll focus on looking at fats and iron. So throughout the 6 weeks, we cook together, we get to know each other, And every week, each participant goes home with a bag of ingredients and the recipe. And the bag of ingredients is to feed a family of 4. So they go home with that, and then they'll come the next week and tell us how it went.
How the feast went.
Because if their
Yeah.
family doesn't like it, it's not going to be very successful.
But would it not be true that some of them, their families, if they're not used to eating that type of food, might not like it?
Yes, and we're real happy that they'll come and tell us, you know,
Uh-huh.
for my husband or my son or my children, I cut up a little chicken and added it to this vegetable dish, or I used comino instead of parsley, or so after...
And you don't flog them when they do that. You
oh,
still give
no,
them a passing grade.
we really enjoy that.
So creativity is all right.
Oh,
eh?
yes.
Yeah. How do people get into the Happy Kitchen? That sounds like a good thing.
Well, we work through what we call our host agency, which means we go out into the community. There's an amazing number of kitchens available. So we work at places like Seton East and Seton South clinics, the neighborhood centers, the recreation centers, churches. The city has a program called the Health Ministry Program, and it funds various programs in churches that are thought to have a higher percentage of nutrition-related diseases, chronic diseases.
Well, that's very important for this Austin Faith Dialogue program, so that some of the
Yes.
members of congregations throughout town can say, this is health ministry, this is something we
Right.
could tap into
Right,
if we
it's a
have
wonderful
parishioners
program.
who are in need of that. Hey, Gloria, let's pull you into this conversation, because I think maybe that's how you got to be a part of the Happy Kitchen.
Well, yes, I was actually diagnosed with diabetes, and I went through Seton East. And I've been given a lot of resources by them, and they were the ones that connected me with La Cocina Alegre. And to me, it's been a very good experience.
I love that. Say that again.
But that
The
I
Happy
have,
Kitchen,
the
yeah.
Happy Kitchen has been a very good experience for
Let's
me.
say it in Spanish.
La Cocina Alegre.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because it is in my community, there are a lot of Hispanics, and the majority of them are don't speak English, and I relate to them because I am bilingual. I love to speak my language, and I can help them also, you know, to translate as to what we're eating, why the vitamins that we take, why we do this. And so I liked it so much because it gives me an on-hands experience of, like Kathy is saying, on cooking, preparing the fresh vegetables and fruits, and integrate it in our family life. And it's been, to me, it's been a blessing. So it has helped me health-wise, as well as my family, with integrating a lot of vegetables and fruits, and learning about the pyramid as well. So
I like the word blessing. I think that's important.
It
For
is.
people of faith, we look to see the blessings of God in our life. And one of the great metaphors or images of the Bible is having that opportunity of sitting down at the heavenly banquet feast. And even in the Eucharistic meal, we talk about the feast. And I think it's important for us to believe or think in terms of God wanting us to have a feast in front of us, spiritually and physically, emotionally, and all the dimensions of the human experience. Felipe, how did you happen to find yourself involved in this type of work, or ministry, if you will?
Sure. Well, as you know, I've been with the Sustainable Food Center a little over 2 years now. I grew up in a small community south of San Antonio on our family farm. I had no doubt that I would work in the ag field. You know, I always anticipated just coming back from college and working on the farm or something, or growing crops, or helping to grow crops to feed the cattle, or things like that. I had no earthly idea that I would work to help grow communities and then help them.
That's an important word, grow communities. Not
Yes,
only
sir.
growing food, but growing communities.
Correct. You know, we're a lot of our work, especially specific to my work, and you know, I spend a lot of time working with individuals. And I mentioned, you know, earlier that a lot of folks are learning exactly how to grow produce and how to incorporate that into their diets, and how to just mainly kind of grow themselves into a feeling of self-sufficiency.
But you are coordinator of the farmers market. Tell us about that.
Yes, sir. Well, you know, we have the East Austin Community Farmers Market Association is part of Sustainable Food Center, and what we do is we have 6 different farmers markets around town. 5 of which are located at actual WIC clinics. The WIC clinics are clinics that are located in the community, and they're part of the Women, Infant, Children program. And what this is about is to help individuals help build a healthy family. So young families or families that have young children, 5 and under, can come in and get assistance with healthy, learning how to what's going on with their children, how their children are developing, and those kind of things. One of the programs within WIC is the Farmers Market Nutrition Program, where each family is given vouchers that can only be used at farmers markets to help support Texas agriculture. So what happens is that a lot of the individuals are receiving WIC vouchers and are coming out to our farmers markets to help buy the fresh fruits and vegetables, and they can only buy through the farmers market season, which right now we are in the peak of.
And so at the farmers market, we'll find what kind of produce, what kind of fruits would be there at this peak season.
Sure. Well, right now we're during the peak season of our farmers market time, but we're because of our weather here lately. We're seeing a lot of tomatoes and a lot of peppers, cucumbers, squash. We've had some pears, we've had some oranges come in, and that kind of stuff. So we've and you're going to find a lot of eggplant, okra. Okra's doing really well.
Is okra good for us? Huh, Kathy? Is okra good?
Yes. What you want is a big variety.
Yeah.
And that's what you'll see at the market.
Sure.
We have great watermelons and
Oh,
cantaloupe.
watermelons, cantaloupe, all of that. That's good
Yes,
All
stuff.
the summer squash
Hey,
and
Gloria
zucchini.
and Kathy, I want you to take a look at Felipe. Doesn't he look healthy?
Yes.
And I think it must be
Robust.
because yeah, robust and healthy. Look at that face, and you know what that says to me? It says to me that you really must be eating well. Do you, when you go to the farmer's market, you have the opportunity to taste some of the produce that's there, make sure it's all right?
Well, I think that one of the blessings that I have is that I spend my life working with folks that are gardening, so I get a lot of fresh produce.
Yeah. And people who garden, there must be an advantage there for them also, emotionally,
Yes,
spiritually.
Sir. Yes, sir. And I think that a lot of the folks that are working in our community gardens are there for the health reasons. I know a lot of folks are very dependent on the fact that they're growing things that they've grown up with traditionally, things that they can't always find in the grocery store. So a lot of folks are doing this, as well as looking for the social aspect of coming to a community garden and meeting their neighbors and working with their neighbors on the community project.
Right.
As well as the exercise. I know a lot of seniors and youth
Right.
really depend on this opportunity to get out and dig and have some fun and really exert their body.
We're going to ask our Austin Faith Dialogue audience to stay with us for a little while because we're going to continue to talk about growing communities, growing healthy people. So be with us on Austin Faith Dialogue. Welcome back to Austin Faith Dialogue. We're talking about your veggies. We want you to eat right, your fruits. We want to talk about sustainable food center and food security. And look at this. This is Felipe's T-shirt, Sustainable Food Center. Hold it in there now. Get fresh with us. I like that. Get fresh with us. Okay, that's good. Now let's come to Kathy. What about getting fresh with the food? What does it do for people when they eat right? Well, I need you to tell our viewing audience a little bit about you. You have an interesting story. How did you happen to get interested in food?
Well, I studied in school international health, and I worked in refugee situations in Africa, and I worked in the Dominican Republic and in the Pacific. But I returned here about 8 years ago, about the time the Sustainable Food Center was becoming founded. And I had a young child. And both my background and the responsibility of feeding my child kind of converged as I saw the Food Policy Council turn into the Sustainable Food Center. And some years later, when I decided to go back to work, I found a job there with a very good friend of mine who was, her background was in food, and she was volunteering at a homeless shelter here. And she had coincidentally asked me if I would use my health background to help her develop a program for homeless people or low-income people to help them interpret some of the diet instructions they were getting from doctors and nurses. And then we saw a position advertised for the Happy Kitchen, which does exactly that.
And you said, that's for me.
Right.
I'm interested. You were in Africa, and you were in Dominican
The
Republic,
Dominican Republic.
and then also South Pacific.
in the South Pacific with the Peace Corps.
And in all
Yes.
those experiences with the international health,
Uh-huh.
what are some of your observations from that about the need for food and for people's sense of well-being?
Well, we say at the Sustainable Food Center that food is at the heart, and we really mean that at the individual level as well as at the community level. I mean, it's just so essential for life and for community and for the individual. And I think no matter where you go, you see that.
Kathy, it seems to me that everybody has a right to have food. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And yet,
Yes.
tragically, some statistics you gave me before we came on the air, you said that there are a couple million Texans. Would you tell our audience about that?
Yeah, very recently, the United States Department of Agriculture, working with Tufts Center on Hunger and Poverty, developed a survey to really measure at the household level how food secure people were. Could they supply food on a daily, consistent basis to feed their families? And when they surveyed the nation, they found that Texas ranked 2, meaning it was the second worst in terms of food security. And in Texas, that means there's more than 2 million individuals that cannot consistently supply themselves with the food they need to lead a normal, active life.
I'd like to know why that is in a state that is as blessed and has the bounty and the resources of this state. And maybe that's why we as people of faith are called upon to raise those kind of questions, try to establish programs like the Sustainable Food Center so that people might have food at the center of their lives. Gloria, we're going to come back to you because when we talk about that, eating right and having good nutrition, I think you have a real witness and a story to tell our viewing audience about what happened to you. I understand your man is a meat and potatoes guy, right?
Oh, yes.
And
Was.
okay, there was okay. And Gloria, well, talk a little. You talked about your own experience and becoming involved in the Happy Kitchen. After you met Kathy and got involved in the Happy Kitchen, what changed in your home?
A lot changed in my home. I noticed our health would depreciate a little bit more, especially my husband's. So I had to find options, other resources. When I found out about La Cocina Alegre, I really enjoyed it. I do like to cook, but I've always wanted to know how to have different options with vegetables, fresh vegetables and fruits, more than we had normally been practicing. And because I do have a family, I look at them and their families eventually that they're going to have in the future. I would like to have them have a balanced meal, a nutritional one, to where they can feel healthy, energetic, and just be happy about it, and have a beautiful meal in front of you with a lot of fresh fruit, fresh vegetables.
What did your husband say when you started changing the diet and bringing home some of these radical ideas from the Happy Kitchen?
Well, he's very flexible. Thank God for that. But as soon as I do remember one remark as I was cooking a recipe that I was given by La Cocina Alegre. He came in the door and he said, "I don't know what you're cooking, but it smells terrific. I can smell it from
Oh.
outside.
What a man.
And
Oh,
I'm
what a
like,
romantic
oh,
statement to
well, I
make,
said,
yeah.
you're in for a treat.
Oh, you did put everything down on the stove and turn around and go and give him a big hug and kiss, I
Oh,
hope,
yes,
because
oh,
that
yes. That's
was
one thing we always
nice.
do when we greet each
Oh,
other.
yeah.
But he's very flexible, and he likes it because he's eating a lot of fresh vegetables.
Uh-huh.
And he says, you know, I've never had it taste as good as it is.
Right.
What did you put in it? And so I tell him it's the recipe that I've learned with the Cocina Lady. And my son, of course, he's integrated. He's more hesitant, but he will eat. He says, oh,
That's interesting.
yes, because
The
he's
son
17
is
years
a-
old.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that-
they know everything at 17.
well,
so.
they've been so used to me cooking it one way, and now they're like, Mom, what are you doing now? And I'm like, well, this is another recipe. I'm like, oh, okay. So he tries it. He sees me and my husband eating it, and he says, I'm sure you're not going to kill me with this because you're eating it. It's fine. I mean, I just want you to try it and give me feedback as to how, and he is actually accepting my cooking, and he's like, oh, wow.
Gloria, I understand you're very devout in your faith and that
Yeah.
you have some interest in maybe integrating and sharing this program with other parishioners in your
Yes.
congregational, your
I-
parish family.
I
What are
have
some
hope.
ideas you have?
Well, right now I have just finished being trained as a facilitator in La Cocina Lady to conduct these cooking classes. I have talked to my parish ministry director and have asked for permission to bring them in because I have a lot of friends in my congregation that are also diabetic. And I am very concerned with their health because I'm tired of hearing them saying, I don't know what to eat anymore.
Yes.
And I said, oh, with the Cocina Lady, you have many options. And you'd be surprised that the food or the meals that you prepare will actually give you the energy that you actually need to be very productive in whatever you do. And so they're very eager, and hopefully I'm also working in providing a health fest for our congregation, bringing in the health ministry as well.
Those are really good ideas for those who are watching this program, that they can integrate into their congregational life, and in that way make everything healthier in their parish and congregational
Well,
life.
I think if you feel better, you give back into your
Yes.
community and
Well,
more to your
Felipe,
congregation.
Yeah, building communities. There's that correlation, that connection between people who are healthy in body, mind, and spirit, and then people who can help build communities. Felipe, you must feel good when you hear a story like Gloria's.
Well, yes, I mean, I'm very fortunate. We're all very fortunate at the Sustainable Food Center that because of a lot of the work that we do, that we impact individuals that continue to impact families as well as other members of their community. So yes, I'm very happy to hear these kind of stories.
If people want to find out more about the Sustainable Food Center, how do they do that? Where do they come? Where are you located?
Well, we're located on the campus of Martin Junior High, which is in East Austin, and that's at 1601 Haskell Street, and we're located in Portables number 3 and 4. And you can always
And to give people a sense, that's just east of I-35.
Yes, sir.
It's right near Rebecca Baines Johnson Retirement Center,
Correct,
right down there.
correct.
And not far from the beach,
not
Fiesta
far from
Gardens.
that.
Fiesta Gardens.
Yes.
and right near there. And a beautiful area.
Yes, sir.
And if they wanted to come and be able to see and talk to you, they could call you and visit with you and find out a time that
Right.
you'd be around there.
Right, and they're welcome to call anytime over to at 385-0080. That's the office number as well. And right now, especially during the summertime, we've got a whole lot of activity going on with the farmers market, with the community gardens program. We have that are working with us throughout the summer. A lot of things are starting up with our greenhouse operation. We have a community garden on site. So yeah, there's a lot of things to see, a lot of things to come by and visit about and learn about.
And from my point of view, what you see is the handiwork of God. You know, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein. And when you experience the wonder of God's creation and the power, as you see from seed, you see the results of what the Creator has given to us. I think that makes you feel better spiritually. Sure. And then when you eat it, it makes you feel a lot better physically. Kathy, what can happen to people, from your point of view, when they become involved in something like the Happy Kitchen? Gloria is a real testimonial. And what happens?
I think Gloria, in one way, she's very representative of the people we see in the Happy Kitchen, and in another way, she has so blossomed into her own.
Kind of a springboard into more
Yes.
community involvement.
And we have a number of women actually that we're training who want to serve in their community, whether it's their church. We have 2 women who were learning English at El Buen Samaritano. Now they will return to El Buen Samaritano this fall and teach the cooking class to other women studying English. So we have a lot of examples of people who go beyond the cooking to
This is very
serving.
exciting to me to hear what you're doing in changing people's lives. This concept of food security. What would be your dream and hope, Kathy, for food security for people in the Austin community? And then we could use that for a bigger vision. But what would be your dream and hope for food security?
Gosh, I think it would be fairly simple to see, maybe more difficult to do, but that every family could have a happy kitchen, could have a kitchen that is abundant with the food that they need, that will nourish them, the food they love, that the person making that food, preparing it for them, has adequate time and resources.
And is appreciated.
Exactly. To put it on the table for
Yes,
them
right.
every night.
Oh, exactly.
Yes.
Oh,
And
that's
that
a great
also in our
image.
community, we're using all the land to grow that food, that we're supporting our local farmers so that the community is secure also. We're not relying on outside sources.
And so that also people might have that which God provides. What's your vision of food security, Felipe?
Right, like Kathy mentioned as well, I would love to see and know that all of my friends and neighbors have enough to eat, are skilled in the best way to meet their family's nutritional needs, as well as being able to shop very locally for local produce. Taking it a step further, I would love to see that all of our local farmers are utilizing our farmers, helping make a connection, a direct connection to the consumer, and building the relationship between the producer and the consumer, and being able to bring things directly to the folks so that they know that the food is going directly to the table of their neighbors.
And there are people watching this program who are listening to you, and they're going to say, right on, brother. Now, how can they reach you again? Give that telephone number.
Sure, they can call the office anytime at 512-385-0080. And get a message or leave a message or speak to any one of us during the regular.
Felipe, thank you. You're
thank
doing
you.
great work. It's
Thank
really
you.
a ministry. Kathy, thanks for putting this all together.
Well,
It's
thank
just
you
a joy
very
to meet
much for
you.
having us.
You have a wonderful vision of life, and thanks for sharing
Well,
that
let's
with
hope
us.
it comes
And Gloria,
true.
keep up the good cooking, and keep telling that 17-year-old that it's good to eat all that variety. And we hope for you that part of the vision that you have of life is knowing the abundance of coming to the table in the kingdom of God and eating all that which God wishes for you to have as you share the bounty of this world. Let's work for food security in the abundance of God's grace. Peace be with you. Thanks for watching Austin Faith Dialogue.